Listen to that.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video here on the Auto Wisdom YouTube channel. Today I have the absolute pleasure of sitting behind the wheel of a very cool vintage car, which is a 1988 BMW E24 chassis 635 CSI. The E24 6 Series is quite iconic as it replaced the old school E9. However, with this chassis, the car now featured a B-pillar in its design language. This particular example is finished in a gorgeous shade of cinnabar red over this cream/beige colored interior, with leather draped everywhere from the seats to the door panels to the headliner and the dashboard itself. It is powered by a 3.4 liter naturally aspirated inline-six engine that is codenamed the M30B35. It is a single overhead cam Bosch Motronic digital fuel injected inline-six engine, which features a cast iron block, aluminum cylinder head, forged crankshaft, and a compression ratio of 9.0 to 1, which is good for 208 horsepower and 225 pound-feet of torque in its stock configuration. You guys will see very soon, though, that this is far from a stock 635 CSI, as it has now been turbocharged. That forced induction conversion has been completed courtesy of a Garrett GT3582R ball bearing turbocharger, outputting around 18 pounds of boost pressure. It also has a stainless tubular exhaust manifold, a 3-inch front-mounted air-to-air intercooler setup, and a custom 3-inch valved exhaust. It's also running full E85. The 635 CSI features a McPherson strut front suspension and an independent semi-trailing arm setup at the rear. This car specifically has new Bilstein B6 dampers all around, along with Vogtland lowering springs for a tasteful reduction in ride height. It's also important to mention that this particular 635 was also equipped with a factory limited slip differential. The owner has also outfitted the car with some retro Alpina wheels that are wrapped in Accelera 651 Sport tires. The setup is 245 by 40 18 in the front and 285 35 18 in the rear. Finally, the original equipped ZF 4-speed automatic transmission was swapped over to a Getrag 5-speed manual gearbox with a twin disc clutch to handle the added boost. A full mod list will be placed in the description box down below if you are curious. So with all that technical talk out of the way, let's go ahead and start this thing up and take it for a drive. Listen to that. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. This thing gets up. All right, so setting off in the 1988 BMW E24 635 CSI with this turbocharged example that is producing a lot of power. There isn't an official dyno figure from the owner, but if we had to guesstimate, it would be somewhere in the mid 400 wheel horsepower range and probably mid to high 400 wheel torque. So we'll just say 450 wheel horsepower for good measure. Now forgive me if you are cringing while I'm driving in this review, because the owner has outfitted this car with that twin disc clutch, and it is a little bit tricky to get it off the line going smoothly without bogging the car down, especially driving here in city traffic where you kind of have to be quick with your pedal control. The first thing that I'll say before we get into a quick pull with this car is that the turbo lag on it is immense, meaning this is old school vintage turbocharged technology, and if you put your foot to the floor before like 4,000 RPM in this thing, the car really isn't going to go anywhere. But once it does, get into boost, it absolutely hits. It's like a horse bucking uncontrollably. The way that this thing just puts you back into your seat is so hilariously fun and cool that it just kind of makes you appreciate the turbo lag. Something that you would typically criticize. In this car, it totally gets a pass because of the fun factor and the theatrics that it adds to the driving experience. So we're going to go ahead and ease into it from second gear. Oh my gosh. This thing just pulls so freaking hard. And once it's in boost, like I said, it just pulls you back like a freight train. And it's so dramatic in terms of the actual turbocharged effect that you can't help but just laugh every time you do a pull in this car. We'll go ahead and hit it once again from second gear up this hill. It's kind of sketchy too. I hope the turbocharged induction sounds are coming through on the camera with this vehicle, because it sounds so freaking cool. It's like a very loud dentist drill at all times, especially with the windows up. And we do have the windows up so that the audio quality is optimal, but with the windows down, you can totally hear the turbo spooling so aggressively and just sucking in so much air. Now, aside from the actual turbocharged setup, how does this car drive? Well, it feels old. It feels very reminiscent of any vintage BMW from this era. As in, the body control is not necessarily up to modern sports car standards. You do feel quite a bit of flex through the chassis itself. This does not have your conventional rack and pinion steering. It's got an actual steering box in it. And while you do get a lot of steering feel from the vehicle itself, there is a little bit of play in the steering, and it's not very direct. It's not very sharp, as in it requires quite a bit of input to actually get the car to turn and throw itself into a corner. Thankfully, the body control isn't too bad, courtesy of those Bilstein shocks and the lowering springs. The owner has also added a little bit of camber into this car, which does help with the cornering ability overall. I really do enjoy how much feedback I am getting through the steering wheel. It's just not something that you get in modern BMWs, just modern sports cars in general with the EPS power steering systems. But you can definitely feel the airiness of this car, the floatiness. It is a relatively big car as well, and it is somewhat hefty, with a curb weight that is in excess of 3,500 pounds. And you do feel that weight to some degree. I guess by modern standards, that's not particularly heavy, but this is a big car. And from a driving standpoint, it's very airy. The overall cabin feel has a lot of space. You're not going to feel claustrophobic inside of this car. And these large, almost panoramic-esque glass windows do help to provide you with some great visibility. The seating position is also relatively low, which I like, and I really enjoy how driver-centric it is, with the actual center stack being angled towards the driver, the gauge cluster being so clear and easy to read with those analog dials. And I absolutely love the manual gearbox. Even though this twin-disc clutch is quite hard to modulate, the owner has upgraded the shifter itself with a chassis-mounted shifter and an upgraded shift knob, and you get so much feel, a very precise, notchy, almost metallic thunk every time you put the car into its shifter gate. And it just adds to that driver experience that we all have come to know and love with these types of cars. Oh my gosh. Thankfully, the owner has upgraded to some larger brakes with upgraded rotors and pads, which this car definitely needs because it can pick up speed incredibly fast. And like I said, it is somewhat of a heavy vehicle. So we're in 4th gear. Let's go ahead and drop it into 3rd. Hit the limiter right there in 3rd. Wow. She gets up. It's kind of sketchy actually, just because of how old the car is, and you hear a little bit of whining from the bushings. This twin disc clutch is something that I'm still very much getting used to. Wow, this thing just pulls in 2nd. And in 3rd gear it moves. I hate using the term one-trick pony, but this car kind of does give me one-trick pony vibes in the sense that it's just so quick in a straight line. This car just has that really cool period correct flair to it. It looks absolutely incredible from a design standpoint, and I just really enjoy how theatrical the experience is. Not only do you get the cool vintage fun factor of a car, a BMW from this era, but you also just get some insane power added to it, and it's just so fun. There's no way that you're gonna ride in this thing or drive this car and walk away without having a smile on your face. Looks like we've actually cooked the brakes a bit. There's a little bit of smoke coming from the front axle, so we're gonna go ahead and take it easy for a bit without going too hard here, and just kind of enjoy the car for what it is. What's also mind-blowing to me is that this M30 B35 engine is coming up on 40 years of age, and the block itself is completely stock. I mean, the owner has thrown a relatively large turbocharger at it, thrown the thing on 18 pounds of boost, and aside from just some upgraded head studs to the block itself, there have been no other modifications, and the car is holding up to the power, which is very impressive. With all that being said, I wanted to give a huge shout out to the owner for allowing me to rip on his personal pride and joy and project that is still somewhat of a work in progress here. This car was so much fun to rip around and just such a unique experience. It's not very often that you get to sit behind the wheel of a 635 CSI, let alone one that's been manual swapped and boosted to this extent. And so if you did enjoy this video, please go ahead and leave a thumbs up, as well as subscribe to the channel down below if you have not done so already. With all that being said, I will catch you all in the next one. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.